I can completely understand if some of you are skeptical of narratives of a foreign hand destabilizing India. Honestly, politicians in the past have used such narratives to bolster their weakened positions and stay in power. But in 2022, it is not simply a foreign government playing mischief in India. There is a string of powerful forces spread across the world and in India, hot wired with each other, which have gone all out to smash the delicate balance of communities living in harmony with each other in India and to create unrest in the country and then sit back and enjoy the spoils of their cunning and malignancy unleashed by them in India. Today, I will talk about some of these entities and try and join the dots for all of you. Hi and welcome everyone to the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. Now, since yesterday, the social media portal The Wire, in both its English and Hindi editions, has been running inflammatory narratives and interviews of how Muslims are ill treated in India. They have produced from their mischief box a rabid India and Modi hater called Gregory Stanton, who is the self-styled chairman of an entity called Genocide Watch. Now hold your breath to what I will tell you next. This Mr. Stanton has petitioned the United States Congress to pass a resolution to warn India from committing genocide. Mr. Stanton wants President Biden to tell Modi that bilateral ties will suffer if India does not behave itself. The sheer audacity of this proposal should be dismissed as the ravings of a madman. But we can't do that. Because firstly, Mr. Stanton gives his own set of very cunning reasons why he is doing what he is doing. And secondly, there are certainly elements in the US who would take up Mr. Stanton's offer seriously and drive a wedge in Indo-US ties. The basic thesis of Mr. Stanton's argument seems to be like a photocopy of the plot from the Steven Spielberg film Minority Report. This so-called do-gooder wants to prevent a crime that will take place in the future in India. His argument is that there are 10 good reasons why, according to him, India is heading for a genocide. This includes that love jihad controversy. Then it also includes that how some Indian Muslims have been lynched in the name of cow protection. He talks about the presence of 600,000 Indian troops in the Kashmir Valley who, according to him, are subjugating Kashmiri Muslims. And yes, he also talks of the CAA legislation, which he says is stripping Indian Muslims of their citizenship. And of course, he rakes up the 2002 Gujarat riots and blames Mr. Modi for them. Now, it is a totally different matter that there is a credible answer for all the 10 reasons he has cited. Let us start with the Gujarat riots. The Supreme Court has in no uncertain manner cleared Mr. Modi of any kind of role in those riots. But if charges are still flung on him by the likes of Mr. Stanton, then it clearly means that these white evangelists have no respect for Indian judiciary. Maybe they want to bring in a kind of a white man's intervention and justice through the route of the US Congress. And as for the lynchings in India in the name of the cow, they are as unfortunate and troubling as the killing of innocent blacks like George Floyd in the United States. When that happened, we did not stand up and accuse the US administration of being complicit of murder. But perhaps in Mr. Stanton's playbook, those courtesies do not apply to the brown man. And then there is this issue of the 600,000 troops in Kashmir. Well, Kashmir does not exist in a parallel universe. It is next to Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Pakistan, which over the years has sent hundreds and thousands of killing squads and fighters in the valley to slaughter our troops and the very same Kashmiri Muslims whose cause Mr. Stanton has taken up. And not to forget the real genocide that took place in the valley when hundreds of Kashmiri Hindus were slaughtered by jihadis and the rest were forced to flee the valley, very much like the Jews who were displaced from their homes by the Nazis. But Mr. Stanton is, of course, very conveniently silent on the real genocide. We indeed expect nothing better from the likes of him. And he's not alone in the ring of hate peddlers that are encircling India with an agenda. Our very own Karan Thapar and Arfa Khanum Sherwani of The Wire are fast emerging as the biggest hate peddlers in the social media world. Not a day passes when they do not incite the Muslim community against the government. They bandy words like genocide and a call to arms, which they made Nasruddin Shah say those particular words against the majority with almost gay abandon. I have a question to ask of such people. Inciting a people to take up arms and inflict violence is a punishable offense, a crime. Such people, in the name of freedom of the press, are precisely doing that. They are creating ill will in communities, provoking them, fanning the flames of communal unrest. Therefore, is it not time for the government to investigate the workings of entities like The Wire, whose only agenda is peddling hate, ill will, and dissatisfaction? Timing, they say, is all. And it comes really as no surprise that in the last few months, after the government has so competently handled the COVID pandemic and the economy, the India haters should strike again. And why have they struck again? Well, they wanted to douse the feeling of order and goodwill which was fast returning and create negativity in the country. And also try and influence the coming assembly elections. Their agenda is served by constantly and consistently putting Modi under the lens and bashing him on specious grounds of social, economic, and military inequity. A United Kingdom based law firm, Stoke White International, has filed a complaint in the Metropolitan Police against war crimes committed by India and Kashmir. Now it turns out that this law firm is bankrolled by Turkey. And then in the shadows, there lurks George Soros, who has publicly declared that $1 billion fund is available for individuals and organizations to bring down authoritarian regimes, which should be read as fingers pointing at India. And then, of course, there is that circle of Indian academics and media persons in the West who have become Hindu-phobic with a vengeance. They equate the rise of Nazi Germany with the rise of Modi and the RSS. They use every trick in the book, all kinds of dissembling arguments to organize seminars, lectures, and outreach programs that paint Hinduism as an intolerant, fascist religion. Fact is, whatever Modi does or does not do is irrelevant. These entities have already made up their mind to oppose him and humiliate him, come whatever he might do. And they're all extremely well funded by non-government entities in the West that are always looking to muddy the waters in India. They especially have a paranoid hatred of Indian nationalism, which they often compare to Nazi Germany nationalism. And therefore it is important that we try and differentiate between the two. Nazi nationalism was a militaristic quest of a superior Aryan man. Indian nationalism is a spiritual quest embodied in the figure of Bharat Mata and a recitation of Vande Mataram. It is not a Hindu or an RSS quest. Indian nationalism is the glue that binds and holds together the linkages between different religions, castes, and creeds in India. And if this gets unstuck, then the very concept of India as one country gets unstuck. Maybe it is this very thing that the hate peddlers encircling India deeply wish for. They would love to see the balkanization of India, its splintering. Because once that happens, it would be a lot easier for them to control and influence smaller regions to spread their pernicious messaging of hate and more hate. This is what really is at stake here and what the real fight or the good fight is all about. So, on this note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA Show. I hope you enjoyed this particular episode. Do subscribe to us. Subscription, as I keep saying, is absolutely free. And on this note, it's cheers and a very good night to all of you.